Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Talking Ruggers. That may be unlucky for some, but not for you guys, because we have a phenomenal guest on this week, arguably, potentially even more passionate about rugby than me. I know, that's hard to believe. He definitely is at least more passionate about South African rugby, the Bok. Robbie Gillette is a South African rugby content creator. He has been making me laugh for the longest time now, and he continues to this day, as well as keeping me well updated on everything South African rugby. He has a very interesting story of how he's made his passion into a profession, monetizing all the content he makes along the way, giving insight on how you could go about doing that too, but at the very least, how the rugby sphere works professionally. But beyond all the finance and business, he has such passion for our beloved game, which he expresses and shares so eloquently throughout this episode, talking about South African schoolboy rugby all the way through to winning World Cups. This guy has seen and done it all in the rugby content space, so I'm so excited to bring you this episode. But before we get into it, for you audio listeners, you won't be able to see this magnificent t-shirt that I am wearing, but it is a Guinness Six Nations t-shirt because the Six Nations is upon us, kicking off this Thursday in France with Ireland travelling away. And I have some exciting news for you, because I have teamed up with the Six Nations themselves to put even more on the line for your fantasy league this season. £150, to be more specific, is a voucher on the line for whoever wins my league. So I'll leave a link to it down below in the description. If you want to join and take me on, best believe you have every chance in the world, because I am awful at these Six Nations drafts. My picks are rubbish, so don't go copying them. But you have a big chance of winning big for a £150 voucher to the winner of the league. So head down below to the link in the description to join the league. It's completely free to do. So if you're already partaking, you may as well give yourself an extra chance of winning big. So click onto the link, join the league, and I'll see you there. Best of luck to you. But without any further ado, let's get straight into the episode. Thank you. All right, Robbie, for those who may not know who you are, in your own words, who is Robbie Gillette?
I think I'm still trying to figure that one out, Ollie, but before we get into it, who would have thought talking rugby as an Englishman and a South African, quite casually, I hate to bring it up, but it is a rugby podcast, isn't it? But the other day I was watching I think it was the semi-final of the 2023 World Cup, and I still don't know how you guys lost that game. I was watching it like 15-6 down the box, and we ended up winning. So I hope I'm able to stay humble in this, you know?
This is the most South African start to the podcast that I've had so far. You're the first ever to come on, and of course that's how you start it. Jumping to your own conclusions straight in there, mate. Yeah, well, it lives long in my memory. I haven't watched the game back ever since, but I'm haunted by it every night. As soon as I shut my eyes, I can see it. And it's the same with the 4 years prior to that. It's been a tough decade for the Botha's Barmy Army and Eddie Jones's Wild Dogs, but you know, we're gunning for that 2027, mate. It's always next year, always next World Cup.
You guys in Gregan's famous words, 4 more years, lads. But no, I'm now being naughty. Who is Robbie Gillette?
You just told us a lot about yourself, mate. You just told us a lot about you.
No, arrogant.
Just South African, mate. That'll sum it up for you.
Look, if you didn't notice already, proud South African. I will say that sort of first up. Brother, son, and then content creator. So like love sport, particularly fans. I think fans are what like sort of keeps the sport going. You know, obviously without fans, there's no there's no sport. I find like like fans are so special and so important to the game, and such characters. So for me, like the whole storylines around particularly rugby. So 2019 was massive for us, and obviously heartbreak for you guys. But like the stories that came out of that, like what Rassie and Sia did for, I suppose, like the country in there, really lit a fire in my like belly to go like, I want to tell stories about this. and like so suppose storytelling, and then like sort of dabble my hand in content creation, social media. But sort of just I love sport, I guess is what you could say. Like I obsessed with it. It's my life, and probably to a weird extent. But as you know, you got to be slightly obsessed with something to be crazy enough to chase a dream around it. So that's me. And also like aside from like professionally, like absolutely love being around my mates. Brian, listen to music. A couple of beers is sort of top of the to-do list, on a weekend. And so that's me, like sort of just sport obsessed, love my friends, being around good people, and good food, as you can tell by my second chin at the moment. It's been a long December, Ollie.
Mate, it's been a lot for that for a lot of us, I think. We've got to, first of all, set up some sort of counter on screen for the number of times you're going to mention beating England at a World Cup, I think. Because so far, you're about
please.
3 down so far. There's a limit, there's a cap, there's a quota on about 5 times. So the podcast automatically ends once you get that.
I just want to pick and choose my times wisely,
But it's interesting you say that, mate. But you're right, the stories. That's what content creation is really opening up, is access to all these things within rugby that are so interesting. And you mentioned first and foremost being a son and a brother, and that's what a lot of people tune into these podcasts for. Well, this one in particular is your story, mate. Let's go back to the start of it. You mentioned your father, your brother. Like, what was your start to rugby like? What was the introduction to the game, and how did you really get involved?
Yeah, so I mean, like I've got 2 older brothers, and I think that's where every good story starts, in the back garden. Mine doesn't quite have the success of a World Cup or a national call-up, quite the opposite, but it's sort of the similarities that it ignited a love for the sport. But my oldest brother is the same size as RG Snyman, or RG. So he's 6'9", big guy, frightening fast bowler in cricket. Didn't quite play rugby, but with hands the size of mitts, you could get that ball hooping around corners. And then my other brother is about 6'3". So I grew up trying to tackle those guys. And they probably let me win once or twice, and it built a little bit of confidence for me to go play, against guys my own age. And I wasn't, I was never very good at rugby. I played A-side like in prep school, and then like sort of a couple of concussions, and then I was just like, I'll probably, high school I decided, maybe not. I was quite a late bloomer, so I wasn't always such a strapping guy, Ollie. I know, it's hard to believe.
Well, I'm going to say, it sounds like your brothers have been eating all your dinner, mate. If they've grown to 6'9", what happened to you, mate? Where did those genes go?
Exactly. So I grew up thinking I was short my whole life, and then you sort of hit your growth spurt. You go, actually, I'm not that bad, You're just around big guys. So like every South African, I think it'll like back garden is where it's at. Like you just any day, like flipping midweek on the weekend. I distinctly remember, like, we obviously played Super Rugby when I was growing up. And on a Saturday, you'd either play your game, or if you didn't have, you'd watch the games. And then there'd be quite a block between the 11 o'clock finish and the early kickoff in South Africa at 3. And in that time, you'd just be outside playing, like recreating what you like saw like in the morning from the New Zealand and Australia guys. So that's where sort of my love for rugby started. And I sort of lost it a little bit when I stopped playing, like, so you go into high school, and then like 2019 it really sort of kicked off for me again. Maybe you could call me a glory supporter, obviously, because we won. But no, I was like, this is something maybe I want to pursue and be involved in, maybe in whatever capacity. So that was really just my introduction, and then sort of reignition of my love for it.
I think that's a pretty common story, mate. A lot of people that I know. So I'm 24. How old are you?
25.
25, similar ages then. So people around our age sort of fall in love with playing the game. It takes a lot of commitment, especially like a younger age, when it's like the physicality is really getting up. There's a bit of difference oftentimes between the sizes of players, and it's like, you know what, like, do I want to throw my body around every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday? Do I still really want to keep on mixing in that? And they stop for a bit. But then I'm also hearing a lot of stories nowadays of people getting back involved in the game, just playing it for the love of the game, because they love being around the social element first and foremost, but also just the exercise and the contact and that opportunity to have that outburst. But it's often inspired by team's doing really well. And I mean,
Yeah.
you call yourself a glory supporter, mate. Those were your words, not mine. Because I wonder what it's going to be like if you guys lose the next World Cup. Then is that the end of Robbie Gillette?
Just like England fan now, you know.
Where were you growing up in South Africa, mate? Because a lot of the audience are UK based. I'm sure there's some Southers along there listening along, and they'll be more familiar with your story. But where were you growing up playing? What was it like playing age grade rugby? Because I assume a bit warmer than the UK. You guys play a bit of barefoot out there, I'm pretty sure as well. Talk me through what that's like.
Yeah, so in some areas there's barefoot rugby in prep school. I grew up, I grew up in the southern suburbs of Cape Town. So we have in that area there's sort of 4 big boys' schools. So Rondebosch, Bishops, Wynberg, Sachs, like all produce Springboks. I hate to say it. So Bishops is our biggest rival, and we'll get into a little bit about that later. But they Sasha's from there. He's their most recent Bok. They have and I'll admit it, they have an incredible knack of producing Springboks. But in saying that, like their last couple of years, Rondebosch have won most of the derby. So it's like, and like any good derby, it swings and roundabouts. Like everyone has their phases. But what I will say, Bishops do produce some pretty big Springboks. So I grew up that side. I spent like quite a bit of the beginning of my childhood was in Tableview. So that was 10 years there, and then moved to Rondebosch. And then at Bosch, we play with boots on. So we never really played barefoot. But when you go sort of down the N1, and Ollie, when you come down, I'm going to have to take you down the N1. Because it's a frightening place. And you go play Paul Boys Junior, Paul Gim Junior, Durbanville's tough, like there's some real tough Afrikaans boys. And you go there early in the morning, you take 60 and you come home. That's in bare feet. And you're like, your toes are frozen, bro. It's like, it is one of the most unique things. But yeah, like rugby season here is wet. Like Cape Town's a wet place in winter. And we have so it's not hot, but the conditions are kind of tough. You like sort of beginning part of the season is nice because you in that transition between hot weather and the cold weather, but like middle of the season, it's mud. It's I suppose like any good rugby season, right? Wet. But then again, like you do have the odd peach where it's just not a breath of wind. In Cape Town, in summer, the wind howls. It's the southeaster goes, and you can be in the city centre of Cape Town and walking forwards but going backwards. The wind's just pushing you. But like there are days in winter where it's just dead still. The sun's out. It's like a cool 19 degrees and weather's perfect for some running rugby. So yeah, that was sort of like my observation and my experience of growing up in southern suburbs. But yeah, like the Western Cape is it's just one of the best rugby regions in the world. You think of like all the guys that have come out of there to go and win World Cups just within like 45 minutes of each other. It's like, for instance, Sasha went to Bishops, is a Springbok fly off. If you go an hour down the N1, Andre Pollard went there, so 2 like double World Cup winner. So just the talent in that whole area, like Marnie Lebox just up the Garden Route, in George, still in the Western Cape. So the whole Western Cape is just like a rugby factory, bro. It's actually quite impressive. And as I say, I realize why I didn't make it,
Yeah, it sounds like almost the perfect storm out there. You hear about South Africans and how brutal and physical they are, and it sounds like you guys have this microclimate that just breeds these incredible rugby players, and the biltong, I'm sure, helps out with that as well.
Yeah, I built up for breakfast. That's actually not a lie, but I'm not lying.
I don't even doubt you, mate. I don't doubt it in the slightest.
I do a little bit though.
Yeah. But you mentioned all these idols that come from these same spots. What about you personally, mate? What role models did you have growing up? Not only just professional players on the field, but people who are part of your rugby story. Like you mentioned your father, for example. Was there any school teachers that stood up for you?
So rugby-wise, I mentioned my brothers. So like we used to play rugby often. And, like because the schoolboy scene's so big in South Africa, and then you go to a school like Rondebosch Prep, you then look at your Rondebosch first team under 19 side as like the Springboks.
Right.
So I remember like me watching those guys and sort of looking at them and going like, I want to be like that one day, like sort of looking at the first team players, like which now when you say it's sort of quite bizarre, but it was the truth. And then like growing up, like the Stormers are It's such a special team in my sort of life, you know, like, and I've been lucky enough to work with them as well. But yeah, I just remember, so like Jean de Villiers, Skalkberger, those guys, Francois Lowe, Joe Aplon, Joe Peterson, just like names that like, and those sort of guys you watch and you go like, damn, these guys are just so cool, like rock stars in South Africa. Yeah, and like those are sort of my guys I used to watch and go like, this is cool. You obviously have teachers that coached you, but yeah, like I sort of thoroughly learned quite a lot, and the love came from sort of kicking the ball in the garden with my dad and my brothers, and yeah, then being able to watch like every Saturday the Stormers churn out like some cool performances with some pretty big players. And then those are my fond memories, like sort of growing up.
Yeah, man, it sounds like a great spot to be with all those names just rolling off the tongue. And you mentioned the first team at school being part of your idols, which is fascinating to me from the UK point of view. Not to say that it's not exactly the same. I didn't go to the most rugby school till I was in college/sixth form, so when I'm 17, and so at that age I was already amongst those people, and I'm sure that the younger lads at the school would have looked up to us as a first team. But
Yeah.
in South Africa, well, the whole southern hemisphere, you look at Australia, even parts of New Zealand, but in my opinion, I think the same as a lot of other people think, no one does it as well as South Africa. You look at the schoolboy rugby there and the turnouts that they get, not only from the old boys, but all the young lads at the school with all the chanting and all the atmosphere that's built up. Like, it's bigger than some championship games in the UK. Like, the schoolboy scene over here is very old-fashioned in that sense. All just clap every try. Parents come along, like, oh, very good stuff, sir. But over in South Africa, it's alive. Talk me through what that's like and how that's come to be.
Yeah, it's a special thing, really. Like, and I almost get goosebumps thinking about it, because it is such a special time in a lot of those guys' lives as well. You know, like that'll probably for a lot of them will be the highest level they play with the biggest crowds, and at 18, 19. But it's those Saturdays are special. Like, I actually coach as well, so I coach at Rondebosch, just purely because, like, you know, you leave like the school's sort of, and I hate to sound like you know, like the brainwashed, you know, but like the school sort of, it forms a big part of you, you know, like what Rondebosch, I'm probably I think I'm the fourth generation of Rondebosch on both sides of my family. So my mom's dad went there, my mom's brothers went there, my dad went there, my dad's dad went there. So it's like there's a whole sort of like history around it, and I think that's quite a common thing as well. So, you know, it's sort of bigger than you not just, I suppose, supporting a school. It's maybe a little bit of a legacy thing, a little bit of heritage. But the Saturday is good. Like, Ollie, we must go. Like, there's this big derbies, right? And we have, I think, with the relevance of social media now, like, actually going viral on TikTok. Like, there's school kids whose names are known all over the world in South Africa just because of TikTok, but then they also go on to just be these flipping superstars in URC and then like go play for the Boks. And I almost find like there was a game once at Loftus in Pretoria, and just down the road is a school called Affis. And Affis are playing Grey Bloom. Huge game. Packed schoolboy stands. The Bulls were playing someone. The Bulls Loftus stadium was empty, and Affis had people pretty much sitting on their roofs, you know, like trying to watch. And you speak about like the Paul Derby, bro, like, Ollie, you got to come down for that, because that's 35,000 people. Paul stands still for the week. And there's I've never actually experienced it, but Paul is divided into two. So there's a Paul gym half and a Paul boys half. So the one half is all the Paulchem colors, so it'll be green, red, and then the other side is all the shops will put up blue, white, dark blue, and it splits down the middle for that week. And it's I promise you, it is one of the biggest things in South Africa. Like, it'll be the most spoken about game, and these guys are, some of them are flipping 70 old and heroes. But what's impressive is that it's week in and week out. So, for instance, Rondebosch get a great turnout. The derbies that mean different things. It's an impressive thing to watch. And then, like you say, the guys make the atmosphere. So what's cool about schoolboy rugby is, I think, and maybe it's changing now, but I think it's maybe the purest form of the game. Like guys are just throwing it around. It's fun to watch, and it's fun for them. It looks like there's nothing really on the line, although there is. But I think as they get on, they'll realize maybe there was a little bit bigger things. But yeah, it's entertaining, and the old boys come out, and it's a good day out.
Yeah, it sounds like a proper occasion, and something that perhaps higher ups, like in terms of league-wise, should be learning from. It's the balance of the rivalries and the energy combined with the flair of the game. It's both those components you really want to get that the schoolboy game does replicate quite well. What's interesting to me that I'm actually genuinely curious about is how that divides between private and public education. Are these all private-based schools in South Africa doing this, or is this state education too?
But probably a little bit above my pay grade, this one. They are like obviously, so Bishops is private. You have your private schools, and then I think you get what you call Model C. So there'll be state schools, public schools. So I went to Rondebosch, which is Model C. So that's public. Oh, so it's not. I know, like from what I heard in the UK, it's a lot of the rugby stuff's private and sort of, posh end of things. But yeah, Rondebosch, I mean, like all schools, like it's there's actually less private schools that are killing it in rugby than there are sort of public schools.
That's what's interesting, because I think that explains a lot to do with why the atmospheres are so good, because obviously in the UK, rugby is predominantly the private school sport, cricket in the summer, and the other half of the UK, well, more than half, is football. So the majority of those lads who are typically the more boisterous, camaraderie, noisy on the sidelines are the football lads. So typically that leaves the private school people to be clapping every try and, it's very good, very good. Whereas all the other people who would probably be bringing most of the energy are playing football. Whereas in South Africa, of course, there are other sports, but rugby is, from what I know, the biggest. So those are the people who get drawn into that. And that's probably why the atmospheres are so good at these schoolboy games, because they're not full of private school folk who just bring no sort of energy to the game, are very polite about things. They're full of these like normal people who just love the game and love bringing a bit more to the atmosphere than just sitting and watching a game of rugby.
Yeah. I also think like in South Africa, it's almost like it's the people's game. Like a rugby is like, it's everyone. Like you go to anywhere in South Africa, there'll be rugby. And you also look at like sort of the diversity of our Springbok side. You know, like actually a lot of them don't come from private schools. You know, like you look at Siya Kolisi's story, Makazole Mapimpi's story. It's they come from real tough backgrounds, and they just go on to make some be some of the best in the world. Which I think like it certainly inspires like everyone. It's such a incredible story, and not just story. Like these guys go on to use it for good. You know, like I know Rassie Erasmus's thing is like, or like from what I've seen, it's like we work, like the Springboks work in South Africa, and Sia's thing as well is like they show South Africa that like what can be done when we all come together and we unite around a cause, and I think like that for me is why rugby is special in South Africa, because it sort of transcends the field, and we can then use it, to, I suppose, do better in our country. There's also not without its faults. So I think that's sort of for me why it's special, and I guess the heart behind why winning is so big. It's like desperate, like we need to win, because we know what the sport can do for us. I guess history's told us all that as well.
Yeah, there's no better example than South Africa for that. And you've seen the movies and documentaries that have been made about that over the course of time. But now, segueing lovely into the second part of the pod, talking about your present day and the content world of things, because that means even more access. I always remember watching the Rising Sun doc, or like the YouTube docs and things like that. Content is now giving more access to all these stories that were once infrequently told, because that was the mainstream media model. You only had Following the Lions discs that came out once over the course of 4 years, whereas now you get to follow the players behind the scenes, and you're a massive part of that, mate. You're a massive part in South Africa. You're my go-to source of information typically when it comes to like seeing what's going on. No, honestly, and that's the content world. So talk to me how you've gone from being a lad who sort of was heavily involved in rugby through your family, went to a great rugby school, fell out of love with the game, and then the World Cup rolls around. How did you then
Yeah.
get back into not only rugby, but into the world of like content creation and social
Yeah.
media? I briefly interrupt this podcast episode to, first of all, hope you're enjoying it, but secondly, to make sure that you go down and drop a like on it. It really helps push these episodes further afield to new audiences, so I greatly appreciate your support. And if you're enjoying them, well, you might as well subscribe and turn those notifications on so you're aware of whenever the next episode goes live. It's typically every Tuesday, but sometimes we add some bonus episodes in there too. So make sure you drop a subscribe down below or follow the channel, depending on whatever platform you are listening on. But beyond that, third and foremost, I just want to remind you about the Six Nations Fantasy League. Yes, there's £150 voucher on the line for whoever wins my league. I've left the link for it down below in the description. It's free to join, so add it to your selection of leagues, and whoever wins it is walking away with that £150 voucher. So I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for your support of this podcast and that league. And without any further ado, I'll let you get straight back to what is hopefully a thoroughly enjoyable episode. Thank you.
Yeah, so like my content creation journey, I mean, if I never ever even thought of doing content creation, like I feel like it's, you got to put yourself out there. And I don't think I was that sort of bloke, growing up, like being in school as well. So I think it's maybe a little bit quite surprising that I'm sort of in this job now. But so 2019 happens, and like there's such something draws me, Bruce. So like I see all this happening, and I'm like, I want to be in sport, but I know like, tactically, technically, I can't, or not can't, but I'm not there to coach. So, you're probably not going to get to that level. So I initially wanted to be a sports psychologist. So that was when I was like, hey, well, I like people, sports for me. I want to be in sports. So sports psychology is maybe my route. And at the time, I started at UCT, the University of Cape Town, and I got into psychology, which was ideal. And then I remember the first lecture, they sort of take you through your roadmap of where you can end up with psychology. And I don't know if anyone listening here knows the road it is to take or become a psychologist. It is years and years and years. But basically they said like where you can like branch into, and they didn't. And I remember the guy distinctly didn't mention sports psychology at all. It was all like clinical and that sort of thing. So I went up to him. He was like, any questions? I went up to him quite bold, like sort of, brash. And I was like, oh, look, you haven't mentioned sports psychology. Or like, is that just like sort of a niche one or what? Like, and then he was like, no, we actually don't offer that. So sort of world imploded within 4 or 5 words. I remember I called my mom. I was like, look, they don't offer sports psychology here. I have to go to Stellenbosch University, but that was all closed and like applications. And then there was a guy called Tom Dawson Squibb, who at the time was a performance coach for the Stormers and the Ike Tigers head coach. Who then later went on to be the performance coach for the Protest cricket team. So established. And I just asked him, I was like, cool, I want to do sports psychology. How do I do it? Like, do you suggest I wait a year and go to Stellenbosch? And he was like, like there's no real degree. But like what I want you to do is create an energy around your name in sport. So I was like, okay, cool. What does that look like? So then,
what does that mean? Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I totally understand. No, and then I was like, yeah, cool. I'll maybe start writing some things about sport, like about the rugby on the weekend, and then I realized I went to public school, So so then I was like, cool, I'm going to interview you then. And that was in 2020. And I did like a little podcast called Keeping It Real with Robbie. I think if I had AI back then, I would have had a better name. But it wasn't
I don't know, mate.
ChatGPT.
Well, I've had a career in marketing, mate. Well, I like the name. I'm here for it.
And then I interviewed him, sort of enjoyed it, but was quite cuck at it. Like I didn't no idea how to edit a video. Like it was genuinely like I had no base. I had no idea no technical knowledge at all around it. I didn't know what 1080p meant. I didn't know what 16 by 9. Like I literally knew nothing.
Yeah. Well, everyone's got to start somewhere.
Well, yeah, and I started from quite literally zero knowledge, but it was cool, and it was a good journey. And I sort of did a couple of more, and I enjoyed it. And and I got good feedback. I don't think it was very good back then, and that's fine to say. I don't think your first thing is ever that good. And then yeah, I did that sort of on and off. I was at university. I eventually did go to Stellenbosch. Probably had too much fun there. I think I'd be a lot further on in my career if I actually dialed in and didn't have that much fun at uni. But yeah, I did that, and then like through doing that, I did a couple. Like I was very inconsistent, and as you know, consistency is everything in this in social media. So I did like one or two, maybe every couple of months. Like sort of when I could. Obviously students, so like budget wise wasn't ideal. And then yeah, like I got into my honors, so sports science honors, and I did 6 weeks, and I was like, nah, this isn't for me. End of 2023, we have the Cape Town Sevens, and I do a gig for Spotify at the Sevens, and they paid me nicely. And I remember like that was sort of in my mind. I was in the back of my mind going like, sure, like I can make a living out of this, like that's something that I can pursue. And then that sort of just kept in my mind throughout. And then I did 6 weeks of honors and I dropped out, and I was like, from here, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this full time. I'm going to try make a career of it. So yeah, came back home and just posted and posted. I posted every day for about 430 days, just trying to grow and grow and grow. And I didn't see sort of the fruits of my labor straight away. Like in South Africa, the box season, so Springbok season is sort of where brands come out and they want to spend their money on rugby and get sort of wheels out of the hype around it, especially like the Springbok sponsors. So I didn't get that. That was like, I say I didn't get it, but I also didn't know that's what happened, So I was, as I said, sort of wet behind the ears, didn't really understand the industry. And then yeah, I decided like, cool, I'm going to give it a couple more months. So I think I gave myself maybe to like May. And if nothing had come up, I'd have to go sort of find something else. Which I was fully, like obviously I would have carried on, but you can't do it full time if it's for that long, if it's not paying off. So yeah, like gave myself to then. And then I got some incredible brands that got behind me, like Under Armour got behind me, Supersport Bet, like, and then that, like, I mean, I owe so much to them, because they quite literally keep the dream alive. And then yeah, from there, like Springbok season was amazing. My brother and I, who works with me, we did a lot of touring around South Africa, got to see our beautiful land that I haven't really seen before. And yeah, like it's sort of this year hoping to do the same. I say that I understand the industry, but this time next year I'll probably look back and look back at what I've told you and go like, oh, Robbie, that's so wrong. What are you doing? But from what I understand now, that's what I can say. So that's sort of been the journey, and it was probably a long answer. You're probably yawning there, but yeah, that's the journey.
What a story! What a story! Full of like risk taking, confidence, backing yourself, like all those potentially like South African values of just backing yourself and getting after it. To know that you are 6 weeks into a course, maybe a year or longer, and going, you know what? Actually, I don't want to do this, and then starting at rock bottom. I mean, speaking of rock bottom, don't go and scroll to the bottom of Level Up Rugby, because much the same as yourself, those videos are awful. But you've got to start somewhere. You've got to learn the game through action. This is what the common mistake is. People, I had a chat with Joseph Webber last week, who's another rugby content creator, and we were just talking about the action and reflection is the best way to learn. It's not something that I can tell you is the best way of going about doing things. You have to do this one thing, you have to do that one thing. The best piece of advice that I can ever give someone in content creation world is just start and learn along the way. Just keep on posting. Like, you posted so consistently for so long. But the questions that I've got for you now is almost a bit contradictory to what I just said. What advice might you have for someone beyond just getting started and getting going? I'm not talking about like the slight details around pixel rate and formatting videos, but in terms of staying consistent, in terms of picking themes for videos. But then beyond that, once you start to establish your following, I'm sure a lot of people are interested in, from the point of view of a content creator, is how you actually go about financing these things, how you actually go about sourcing sponsorship. Is that they reached out to you fortuitously, or is it more that you've got a pitch deck and you're going and approaching brands? Talk me through that advice that you might have for someone.
So I think like you're saying now, I think what you've got to get comfortable with and good at is sort of imperfect actions. So like never wait for something to be perfect because it's not going to be. So like the consistency wise, it's you don't sit on something because you don't think it's perfect, right? You just got to do it because the more the ball gets rolling, the better you become. So that's I don't think there's a real like hack for consistency. I think it's just doing. Like the hack for consistency is actually just putting your pride aside and just doing and being willing to try things and fail. You know that's what I think.
Putting yourself out there 100%. You
Yeah,
have to have that
yeah,
mentality and that spirit. But I'd argue you're almost, for want of a better word, believe me, arrogant to the fact. Because
mm.
not just because you're South African, mate. This is not just because you're South African, I can promise you. But
Uh,
you're
we don't
working in
know.
an industry. Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of sourness still there within
Yeah,
me. But you're working within a game that you love. Like
yeah,
I never feel like I'm working a day in my life. Technically, this is work for me right now, but it
yeah,
doesn't feel like it. And that's how easy it is to stay consistent. If you just pick
mm.
a niche or a subject that you're genuinely passionate about, something that is intrinsically motivating you to keep working. Like if I just relied on the likes and the followers and the views, I'd have stopped after 3 weeks because they don't
Yeah,
come in, especially when you're really bad at it. But I just love talking about rugby. So I just
yeah,
carried on doing it. And all of a sudden, eventually, you start to learn and tweak a thing or two here and there. This is what I always say to people is that content creation in particular, or generally any creation, is like, you know, like the 80-20 principle.
mm.
80% of the result comes from 20% of the work. I'd say that it's
Yeah,
actually 80% consistency, 20% creativity. And that 20%
yeah,
creativity is more realistically 15% copying other people and
for sure.
5% putting your own spin on it. It's the 80% of
100%.
consistency that it just allows you to keep on churning through. You have to work smart. It's not just all about hard work. You've got to learn how
Yeah,
to tweak certain things, do a bit of research, a bit of analysis onto it. But you're right. It is just staying consistent, and working in something that you love is such an easy way of doing that because it never feels like work.
for sure. Bro, I think you've nailed it completely there. Like I don't think anyone's reinvented the wheel in any content creation. Like no one has. I mean, maybe a handful have come up with new concepts, but you're so right. Like I actually can't really add anything onto that. You've nailed it. Like I think you should clip that and put it up. You know,
Yeah,
because it's so
there's the
true.
content.
Yeah, yeah. You like it's purely consistency. Like you can't post 3 times a week when you have 0 followers and expect to grow. Like you got to be in people's faces. People got to then trust you. I think a lot of it's about trust. Like, and I also think that's like when we'll get into commercially, but I also think that's what brands pay for the most. Like, like an audience's trust in a content creator because you need to be able to trust someone and like build a sort of relationship with them before you can follow, like actually buy into what they want to do. Because I also think in many ways what we do is quite selfish, because we're trying to build a brand around ourselves and it's about me. So like, but like you can do that, but it's just got to be trust in it through your audience. And then like commercially and how brands come about, it's I was reached out by Under Armour in probably 23. Incredible chap, Mark, reached out to me and was just like, look, we love what you're doing. We like want to build a relationship with you. So like did a campaign with them and then they, like then it was just about a relationship. Like there was no like requirements or anything. It was just literally like, yeah, they'd send me to go shop, bro, like amazing, like a awesome like deal. And then he approached me last year in April and was just like let's sort of take the next step, like let's get married. And I was like, sick, that sounds amazing,
Sign
it
me
keeps the
up.
dream alive. Yeah, yeah. Where do I sign? And then like that was him sort of seeing a vision in me, which I'm incredibly grateful for, and I think he knows how grateful I am to them and him. And then Supersport Bet was a little bit different. I sort of reached out on LinkedIn. And actually, that's an advice I'll give. Like, use LinkedIn if you want to get sponsorship, actually, because people are on there for a very different reason, right? So the same person might see you on Instagram and like your stuff, but not look at you as a opportunity to grow their brand. But on LinkedIn, you post different stuff, and sort of your performances and where you want to go. So you sort of drop hints, But for this one, I was actually quite brash. I was just like, look, if there are any betting sites that I knew there was interest around me, because you can see who's sort of viewing your stuff, or your profile. So I knew there was interest. So I just look, if there are any betting sites keen to get involved with me, like let's chat. And then yeah, Supersport Bet like reached out, and yeah, they're incredible. They are literally so content creator driven, an incredible team as well. Like they are, I actually can't speak highly enough of them, because they so understand the value of a content creator, and they well, what an incredible team to be a part of. And then like the other brand deals are all just sort of via email. Like if a brand is, and I don't know, if I think it's a little bit different in the UK, but in South Africa, I'll sort of explain how it works, and from what I've learned. But what happens is that all these brands they'll have clients, right? And the clients are the brand, or the companies, and the brands and that sort of thing. A lot of these agencies have these companies, or a whole bunch of companies in their wheelhouse, and they look after X, Y, Z. So one thing I'll say is that when you do work, always make sure your work's good quality, because a brand deal might fail. If it's a short campaign, you might not get the results you want. But I find that if you've put complete effort into it, and you are on time, and you are everything professional, and there's thought around what you've done, and not just a cash grab, they will come back to you. That's what I find. And then like relationships matter. Like that is probably my biggest sort of motto in life. Relationships matter. So always just just be nice, be good, like be professional, and really try build a relationship, because ultimately these are the guys that are going to give you work, right? And I'm not trying to say like you need to suck up or anything, but like just sort of show genuine care. Like show genuine care, show genuine interest, and that for me has been a big learning this year. You want to just, I suppose, like if naturally you like that, then you will be. But if you're not, then you gotta show genuine care, I think, and build a relationship through that. And I don't think that's rocket science, but I do think it gets lost.
This is so fascinating to me, like talking from like a psychological and sociological point of view, understanding what makes South Africans so different, because everyone that I know who knows South Africans, there is just a different breed about you guys. Something just sets you aside from the rest of the world. And potentially, in large part, it might be this, just your focus on humanistic traits. It's not to do with the Springboks playing the most attractive brand of rugby or your tactics or your strategy. It's about your desire, your emotion, your passion, your care, your love for one another, the love for the country, for the other people involved in it. It's those human traits that really set you aside. And a saying that we were brought up on at school at Beach and Cliff was, good people make good players make good people. Like you've got to have that focus on who you are as a person, because at that point, then you have that trust within the collective of the team, that you've got each other's back, and you're going to be able to trust that person can do their job. That allows the whole system to work. It's no good having a system if there's not the trust within it to allow it to work. And building that trust is so important in a professional sense. And that's what I really want to figure out from your side is, you mentioned as a content creator, a real important thing is that trust. How do you go about building that? Of course, the quality of work is a large part of that, but what exactly are you doing to build that trust between yourself, your audience, and brands?
I think it comes with time. So I don't think it's an act or a service. I think it's time. I think people naturally will draw to you if you're top of mind. And that comes with consistency. So if you aren't constantly on someone's feed and then bringing them value, they might not follow you the first time, second time, third time. They might only follow you on the 10th, right? But through that, they've built a trust in you. So there's and this is where I'm really bad, Ollie, and I'll happily admit this, is that I'm not great at sharing personally, right? So like I'll do content, but like I know that I could probably build way better trust if I start posting stories about my day-to-day life, but I'm not good at that. And it's something that in 2026 I need to do, and I keep delaying it, and I'll so happily admit that, but it'll come, and I can't say why I don't do it. It's just, I don't know, like maybe my life's just not that interesting, but it's, I think, as I say, just like that consistency, you get fed more to people. People then see K's added value. He's not just a guy who's sort of talking rubbish. And then eventually, guys, there will be that trust purely just because you've showed up and you've been. And I think people reward hard work, if I'm honest with you. I think people also like to get behind a vision, and they like to get behind you for something. For instance, like that's why like starting a series, like your rate in the rugby clubs is amazing. Like come do that in South Africa, and South Africans will absolutely adore that. Like I'm being genuine. Like people want to see you at their rugby club. Right. So that's enough. Like then you build trust as well, because, you're not just rating every rugby club 10. Like
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
the reality. But I think just top of mind, bro, like constantly being on people's pages, adding value. So not just being on there because you got a huge following and you rage baiting or you whatever. Like you add your value in your niche, and I think from there people go like, oh, okay, I actually like this guy. It's and they might not even have to like you, but they're like, okay, this guy speaks some sense. Let me get behind him.
A well educated answer, that, because it's a bit of a trap almost, the question, and it's like, oh, what's the one thing that builds trust? And the answer isn't one thing, it's maybe
Yeah.
one thing 100 times. It's not that the answer comes in one moment. It's not that you saved me from a burning building, therefore I trust you.
Yeah.
It's you turned up every day. That's why I
Yeah.
trust you. It's not about turning up one day. It's about just being there consistently that builds the trust. It's not one thing. It's that 100 thing that really builds the trust. That's a really educated answer. And
Yeah.
I like that. That's good from you.
I also think that, and this is maybe just for other content creators, and probably where I am now is, you're not always going to have the next best idea and the next series that takes off. So I think it's about then, like going back to what you know and what works, because it is true. It's impossible to have good ideas 20, or maybe it's not. But I mean, like I know personally, like sometimes I sit and I go like, I actually don't have anything that's good at the moment. Like, like sometimes you just don't. And that's what I'll say. And I haven't done this well at all, but then you've really got to like sort of just breathe, like it'll come. Like actually like lock in, do some work, go do, like you said, go do some research and be willing to fail, but also be willing to.
And what interests me, following on from this into the final section of the pod, where we're looking into the future of rugby, you mentioned brands that respect and appreciate content creators. So through the lens of that, as a content creator yourself, what are some things that you think rugby could be doing better or learning from other sports? You've got a cricket background as well, of course. Talk to me about what you think the things are that rugby could be potentially pushing a bit more from a content creation point of view.
Sure, it's such a difficult one, because I know my answers now are sort of not going to be well received by everyone, but I think that the content creators should be given access to footage and be able to use footage and not be copyrighted. But on that also, and in a controlled way. So I'm not saying give us the full 80 minutes and we can upload it to YouTube, but I think we should be able to commercialize the clips, because but obviously not just the clips. So like have commentary, do like split screen stuff, the green screen stuff. But I do think that like that'll grow the game so well. Like, because I know like if you just post a clip, right, and you'd be given permission to post a try, you're not building a brand. You might get followers off of it because it's a clip of someone, but you're not like, it's not building the content creator. It's just getting eyeballs on your thing. So, and I know you can use some footage, but I just think like you should maybe be able to commercialize it, right? So like then everyone wins. But now, so I'm talking purely from like the benefit of a content creator. But yeah, I think like access to players as well should, I think, maybe be a little bit more accessible, especially in international areas, international teams. So not just like your big broadcasters or whatever. Like Flip, I think invite content creators down and just like, because it grows the game, right? I think, because I know a lot of people only watch the Springboks in South Africa. So like, yes, the Stormers are huge and they sold out the stadium last weekend, but that is a very loyal fan base. But there's millions and millions and millions of people who watch a box, but I'm not sure that many people watch the Stormers. So I think maybe access, but I don't know. I also think content creators need to carry on working hard. I do think that we can't be spoon-fed stuff. So that's also another area. Like, you can't just expect. I do think a lot of content creators, or like when you start getting into the space and expect this and expect that, it's like, no. You'll actually do the work first. And then through that, you'll get opportunities. I don't know if that answers your question.
Definitely, and it's a common theme. I had a chat with Andrew Ford and Squidge Rugby, two prominent like YouTube creators who deal with endless amounts of copyright strikes and threats of channels being taken down by broadcasters who are reluctant to share the profits, because it's not necessarily the content, it's profiting off the back of it that they have a problem with. It's like, that should be our money, but you're not going to post it anyway, and it's not necessarily making us a killing. But think of what it does for the good of the game. Like, you look into American football, which I learned from Andrew Ford, image rights don't exist. Essentially, anyone can post any amount of content from American football, and look at the quantity. The quantity of content that comes off the back of that, people doing educational videos, highlight reels, just
Hype
posting
videos,
clips,
right?
stuff like that. That is just a quantity on your For You page, on TikTok, on Instagram, whatever else, that just, like you're saying, grows the game. And it, like a rising tide raises all ships. If we can help grow the game as a whole, more people are going to likely to buy a subscription to TNT Sport, Premier Sport, to actually watch these things. And that's what I find frustrating, is that it's not like these content creators aren't putting effort in. Like, Andrew Ford constructs these videos, goes delving through the archives to find all these clips. When I come to doing like my educational series, I haven't, touched wood at least so far, had to deal with too many copyright strikes, because under fair use legislation in the UK, like, you can repurpose content as long as it doesn't replace watching the original format, add significant value, and doesn't over a certain like time in length. If you're just posting the highlights, then leave that to TNT Sport. But the whole point of what I'm trying to do with Level Up Rugby is help people to watch the game better so that they enjoy it more, because rugby's complicated. So if I can help you see what a 1-3-3-1 shape looks like, and how this defense is a drift defense compared to a press defense, and the situations that you can, and you can start to see the game like, oh my God, I can see that now. People watch the Six Nations, for example, as like a rugby tournament that just people watch because they love going down the pub and watching it. But if I can help you watch it better so you can enjoy it more, that's the whole point of the series. So why would you stop me from using those clips in that way? Because it's helping everyone, and that's what they're so short-sighted at.
Yeah. It's I think it'll get there, to be honest with you. There's so many content creators now pushing for it as well, that eventually it'll get there. But it's also like, I also understand like sort of where they're coming from. I do, as like a business, but we'll get there.
It makes sense both ways, and rugby is one of those sports that's transitioning at the moment. We're seeing a growth of content creators now, not only in terms of the success of views, but just the quantity of them. They're just getting better and better. And like you're saying, there should be no entitlement. A lot of people start out and just believe that they deserve to be given this, that, and the other. And I think that we both aren't inclined that way. Like, we've grafted for a while now, like, well, both of us over like 5 years or so now, to get to the stage that we're at. And it's now time to transition as a sport as a whole. That's why, that's literally the point of this whole podcast, talking to everyone involved in the game who isn't only a current professional player. Those people who are bringing it forward into the modern era through content creation, through online businesses, online clothing brands, all these different means, that is essentially just raising the game up to where, in my opinion, as a sport, it deserves to be. I love the game, but it's all these things around it that we're getting right now that's just starting to really elevate it, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And I also do think we're getting now superstars coming out of rugby. Like, if you look at Sasha, Henry Pollock, like, these guys are young guys that are going to get millions and millions of followers, I think. And like, that's what rugby needs, superstars. And I think they understand that as well, which is exciting. So that's sort of trending in the right direction.
100%. Like, both the players on the pitch and everything around it is growing this into a good place to be. So for anyone still listening, Robbie, if you are this far into the podcast, then they're a top North. So tell them how they can help you out, mate. What are you trying to achieve this year? How can the listeners help you?
Sure. I think bring energy to posts. Let's engage, like, it's I'm quite a big sort of on energy, right? So like I want as much energy in my comments, in my DMs as possible. Just like get involved. So it's sort of like I can't come up with a clever answer other than like just let's interact. Because it goes so much further than what you think it does. I flip and I know so many people say that, it's sort of the tagline of every YouTuber, but it is true. Like it costs you nothing, but it gains me and us a lot. So if you haven't liked this podcast already, you need to like it and subscribe. Because
Of
to
course,
Talking
call to
Ruggers.
action.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, I
Perfect.
think just sort of it's a big year. And yeah, so there'll be some cool content coming out. But sure, just get behind it.
Come on, Robbie, you're going to have to be more of a content creator than that, mate. What's the call to action? Where can people find you?
I'm Robbie Gillette Rugby on Instagram and TikTok, and then if you do like cricket, Robbie Gillette Cricket. I think cricket's gonna be a big one this year for me. So also stick around for that because there's some cool. Yeah, I've already done some cool stuff there. Rugby wise, much of the same, a lot different as well, and yeah, looking forward to sort of getting stuck into it. Not going to give away too much now, but there's lots to come.
Well,
Is
make
that
sure you go
good
and head
enough?
over to
Or
the socials. That's perfect, mate. Spot on. That is the content creator within you coming out there. Make sure you go head over to check out Robbie's socials because I love the content, mate. You talk about energy, you are full of it. And it's a good source of information
yeah.
to keep up with everything Bok over on that side of the world. So make sure you do that, guys. I hope you're enjoying your week. I hope Tuesday training is a delight for you. Same with Thursday. And of course, as always, go well on the weekend and we'll see you in the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Bosh. Here we go.
Bosh. South African Bosh.